President Donald Trump's efforts to end the war in Ukraine may be hitting a setback. Trump said there could be a meeting between President Zelensky and Vladimir Putin within a couple of weeks, but Russia is now suggesting that won't happen soon.
Thick, black smoke billowed over western Ukraine before dawn, rising from the shattered remains of an American electronics factory. A civilian facility now added to the growing list of casualties in a conflict that has just drawn a new line between Moscow and the West. So what could be the next target? And when will it all come to an end? Let's find out. In a significant escalation of hostilities, Russian forces launched a massive overnight aerial assault on Ukraine, one of the largest of the nearly two-year conflict. The wide-ranging attack, which involved over 570 drones and 40 missiles, resulted in a direct strike on a major American-owned electronics facility in western Ukraine, sharply underscoring the ongoing risks to international commercial interests in the region. The incident occurred in the early hours of Thursday in the town of Mukachevo, near Ukraine's border with Hungary. According to Ukrainian officials, 2 Russian cruise missiles struck the factory, which is operated by the global electronics manufacturer Flex. The attack caused extensive damage, with Regional Military Administration head Myroslav Beletsky reporting that approximately 1/3 of the massive facility was consumed by fire. While over a dozen workers were injured, officials confirmed that a far greater tragedy was averted because nearly 600 employees on the overnight shift had heeded air raid sirens and taken shelter in secure areas before the missiles hit. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky identified the target as an ordinary civilian enterprise and a significant American investment, emphasizing that its production was dedicated to familiar household items like coffee machines. He stated the strike demonstrated a blatant disregard for global efforts to end the war. Flex, a Fortune Global 500 company founded in the United States and publicly traded on the NASDAQ, maintains its headquarters in Austin, Texas, and Singapore. The company has not issued an immediate public statement regarding the attack. The targeting of a prominent American commercial asset drew swift condemnation from business leaders. Andy Hunder, president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine, declared on social media that Russia is continuing to destroy and humiliate U.S. businesses in Ukraine, noting that the Flex plant represents one of the largest private U.S. investments in the country. This event highlights the persistent vulnerability of foreign-owned enterprises, even in Ukraine's western regions, which have generally experienced fewer attacks than areas closer to the front lines. While the Russian government did not provide a statement on why it singled out the civilian factory, the broader aerial barrage placed a distinct focus on western Ukraine. The country's military reported successfully intercepting a majority of the incoming drones and missiles, though some ordnance penetrated its defenses. Beyond the attack on the factory, the assault resulted in at least 1 civilian fatality in the western city of Lviv. The incident serves as a stark reminder of the war's continued capacity to disrupt international commerce and inflict damage far from the immediate battlefields of the East and South. In a stark demonstration of the challenges facing international peace efforts, a major Russian aerial barrage struck Ukraine early Thursday, just days after President Donald Trump held separate high-stakes meetings with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. The attack, which targeted a significant American-owned electronics factory, casts a shadow over the nascent attempt to launch negotiations and highlights the complex diplomatic landscape. Despite President Trump's directive to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Air Force General Dan Kane, to develop plans for Ukrainian security guarantees, the immediate reality on the ground remains one of violence and destruction, underscoring the vast gap between diplomatic overtures and the situation at the front. The timing of the assault is particularly significant, following closely on the heels of President Trump's discussions with both leaders. While the administration has initiated planning for potential security arrangements, officials have clarified that any future U.S. role would likely be constrained to forms of air support, reflecting President Trump's firm stance against deploying American troops to Ukrainian soil, even in a post-war peacekeeping capacity. General Kane has been engaged in preliminary talks with his European counterparts to explore possibilities for a collective security framework. Some European nations have indicated a potential openness to contributing troops at a future date. But these discussions remain in their earliest stages as the conflict shows no signs of abating. For Ukrainians, the relentless nature of the Russian offensive reinforces a widespread belief that President Putin remains fundamentally committed to a military path rather than a diplomatic one. This perception has solidified the demand among Ukrainian officials and citizens alike for robust and ironclad security guarantees from Western allies. Oleksandr Mereshko, a member of the Ukrainian parliament who heads its Foreign Affairs Committee, articulated a common sentiment, stating, "I strongly continue to believe that the only solution is NATO membership for Ukraine." This would stop the war. This would stop Putin's aggression because Putin is afraid of only one thing: NATO. This perspective underscores the deep-seated view that only the strongest possible collective defense pact can serve as a definitive deterrent to further Russian aggression, a goal that remains paramount as the war continues to inflict damage on the nation. The pursuit of durable security guarantees for Ukraine remains a central yet deeply complex issue, a fact thrown into sharp relief by recent diplomatic efforts and ongoing military aggression. Many in Ukraine firmly advocate for nothing less than full NATO membership, a goal initially promised in 2008, but one that has seen no tangible progress since. President Trump has explicitly stated that such an outcome is not feasible in the current environment, leading his administration to explore alternative frameworks. The president's envoy, Steve Witkoff, has suggested a guarantee that could functionally resemble NATO's Article 5, the Collective Defense Clause, which states that an attack on one member is an attack on all. However, there is profound skepticism in Ukraine, born from a history of limited security promises that ultimately failed to deter Russian aggression in 2014 and again in the full-scale invasion of 2022. This skepticism is compounded by the unequivocal and opposing stance from Moscow. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov recently reiterated his government's firm position that Russia must hold veto power over any security arrangements for Ukraine, a condition that would effectively render any such guarantees meaningless by subordinating them to Kremlin approval. This fundamental impasse underscores the immense difficulty of the diplomatic task at hand. Despite a recent flurry of high-level meetings, neither Ukraine nor Russia has shown a willingness to make the major concessions necessary for a breakthrough. As Oleksandr Mereshko, a member of Ukraine's parliament, starkly summarized, the interests and positions of the two nations are currently diametrically opposed and cannot be reconciled. This reality suggests that while the search for a security framework continues, a resolution that satisfies both Ukrainian sovereignty and Russian demands appears for now unattainable. As the world condemns the strike, don't you think the response will be closely watched, setting a critical precedent for how acts that target global commerce? Let us know in the comments what you think of this proposal, and if you want to stay on top of this, smash that like and subscribe button. Goodwill, while Ukraine's survival hangs in the balance? Let us know in the comments what you think of this proposal, and if you want to stay on top of this, smash that like and subscribe button.